Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be taking a dive into the new Renters Reform Bill. It's been seen by a large majority of property investors as a further attack on landlords, with many calling it the end of the buy-to-let property market. With all the uncertainty and drama surrounding this bill, I wanted to use this video to take a closer look at some specific elements of the bill. So today we will be taking a look at what the bill actually is, why the bill is being introduced, what is meant by no-fault evictions, what is changing in terms of the rental contracts and assured short-hold tenancies, will landlords be able to review and increase rents, and what rights will tenants have when it comes to keeping pets. As you can tell, there is a lot to go through in this one, but before we do, make sure that you hit that like button, share, and of course subscribe to the channel. We just crossed 450 subscribers, which is kind of crazy to think about. I never really thought I'd hit 50 subscribers, so to hit 450 is genuinely amazing. Now, with that being said, I've set a little goal of hitting 500 subscribers by the end of May, so if you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, and to anyone who has already subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, that's enough subscriber shilling. Let's get into the video. So I want to start with taking a quick look at what this bill is and why it's even being introduced in the first place. Basically, the Renter Reform Bill is being introduced with the goal of fundamentally reforming the private rented sector and level up the overall quality of housing. The reforms proposed in the bill commit to bring back a better deal for renters and marks the biggest shake-up of the private rented sector in 30 years. Now, it was only recently introduced to Parliament on 17th of May 2023, and it will need to pass through Parliament before becoming law. Housing Secretary Michael Gove told BBC Newsbeat he hoped to see the bill in place as quickly as possible. Okay, so why is this bill being introduced? As we all know, the private rented sector is a truly vital part of the UK housing market and economy. The UK currently has more than 4 million properties privately rented, with numbers having doubled since 2004. The government says that currently, due to legislation, renters face a precarious lack of security, especially in terms of Section 21 no-fault evictions. Meanwhile, responsible, good landlords are facing issues by being undercut by criminal landlords. The bill is being viewed as the first of many reforms coming to the sector, with the government declaring further ambitions for the sector, highlighting that nearly a quarter of private rented homes currently do not meet basic decency standards, and in the future plan to introduce a decent homes standard to the private rented sector. So now we have a decent understanding of what the bill is and why it's being introduced in the first place, I want to move on and look at some of the specific reforms potentially coming to the sector. Starting with Section 21 no-fault evictions. Within the bill, there are plans to completely abolish Section 21 no-fault evictions, much to the dismay of landlords. Currently, private landlords have the right to repossess their properties without having to establish fault on the part of the tenant. Instead, with the reforms, landlords will only be able to evict a tenant under reasonable circumstances. In place of Section 21, the bill outlines proposals to strengthen Section 8. This allows a landlord to end a tenancy agreement early if they have a legal reason to do so. Next up, the removal of assured short-hold tenancies. The government plans to simplify existing tenancy structures by moving all assured short-hold tenancies onto what they are calling a single system of periodic tenancies. This means that tenants will just need to give 2 months notice if they wish to leave, and there will be no fixed term contracts. Next up, rent increases. To combat the cost of living crisis and stretched finances of renters, the government plans to limit all rent increases to once per year, and landlords must give a minimum of 2 months notice before any change in rent takes place. But that's not all. There are plans to end the use of rent clauses, with the government saying that this reform is to prevent tenants being locked into automatic rent increases that are vague or may not reflect changes in the marketplace, and says that any attempt to evict tenants through unjustifiable rent increases is unacceptable. In cases where increases are disproportionate, the government will make sure that tenants have the confidence to challenge unjustified rent increases through their first tier tribunal, and it will prevent the tribunal increasing rent beyond the amount landlords initially asked for when they proposed a rent increase. Next up, I want to move on and talk about pets. Renters with pets generally struggle to find accommodation that will accept them. In 2020, a government study revealed that only 7% of landlords specifically advertise that their property is suitable for pets. This means that some tenants have no choice but to give up their pets. Now, before the tenant fee ban, many landlords allowed pets and just simply upped the tenancy deposits to mitigate potential damage. With deposits in England limited to 5 weeks' rent, landlords just no longer have this option. And the government's model tenancy agreement has been updated to allow tenants to keep pets by default. Now, in the Renters Reform Bill, it outlines that tenants can request permission to have a pet in their home and that landlords cannot unreasonably reject or withhold consent. Now, it's not all bad news on the pet front. The bill does state a tenant must provide in writing confirmation that they have acquired insurance for their pet, or they have to be willing to pay the landlord reasonable costs to cover the landlord's insurance in case of any damage caused by a pet. Now, there are two more final things that I wanted to touch on: the proposed ombudsman and property portal for the private rental sector. It does appear from the bill that membership to the ombudsman will be mandatory, with the white paper stating that making membership of an ombudsman scheme mandatory for landlords who use a managing agent will mitigate the situation where a good agent is trying to remedy a complaint but is reliant on the landlord who is refusing to engage. It will also ensure that tenants have access to redress services in any given situation and that landlords remain accountable for their own conduct and legal responsibilities. With the white paper stating that making membership of an ombudsman scheme mandatory for landlords who use a managing agent will mitigate the situation where we have a good agent trying to remedy a complaint but is reliant on a landlord who is just refusing to engage. Finally, we have the new property portal. A new digital property portal will be introduced to provide a single front door to help landlords understand and demonstrate compliance with their legal requirements. The nature of the portal is yet to be determined, with the government to conduct extensive testing of potential solutions for the portal, underpinned by user research and engagement with representative groups to make sure the system works for tenants, landlords and local councils. The portal should be flexible enough to support future policy developments, supporting efforts to raise standards in the sector and reduce the number of non-decent rented homes by 50% by 2030. This could include a system where landlords and agents must meet minimum standards before the property can be let. The property portal aims to provide a solution to these issues, with landlords legally required to register their property on the portal and local councils empowered to take enforcement action against private landlords that fail to join the portal. Let's be honest, let's hope that they can do a better job of this portal than all the other portals and apps that the government has created in the past. Well guys, that is all from me. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, remember to hit the like button, hit the share button, and of course subscribe to the channel. Until next time,